Sometimes the smallest budget cuts lead to the biggest facepalms. Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. In today's Tales from Tech Support, we're dealing with everything from disappearing security software to disappearing storage space. And just wait for one user who mistakes their mouse for something it's definitely not. Quick shout out to our 78 Karma Crew members. I thank you so much for your support of the channel. I hope you get a chance to check out the exclusive Pro Revenge episode that I released yesterday on YouTube just for Karma Crew members. If you'd like to join the Karma Crew, click the join button underneath any one of our videos or click the link in the description down below. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from New Assumption 3106. Don't want to pay £50 for casters? Okay, how about £300 plus lost production time? This is back in the day, but when we quoted for structured cabling installations, we itemized the rack contents. So it would be 42U rack plus 4 shelves plus patch panels plus cable management bars and so on. The last item would be heavy duty casters. This would be for a rack in an office or production environment, not in a climate-controlled server room. And you might need to move it a bit to get access behind to feed in more cables or services, or just for whatever. This client didn't like the idea of £50 for casters, so he approved the whole £30,000 project quote, but he struck off the casters. I strongly advised against this, but the project went ahead with fixed feet on the rack. A couple of months later, guess what? They needed to move the rack a few feet to get some electrical work done. That's fine, we can do that. We just have to shut the network down, remove all the equipment from the rack, lay it on its side, change the fixed feet for casters, upright it, reinstall the kit, and off you go. He saw the irony. I stopped itemizing rack components. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Habrino. It says, would have told him the price of casters went up to £75 in that time. You know, I don't agree with this commenter because I think you could tell them that they went up a lot higher than that. You have the downtime of the servers that cost them money, and you could just charge more for these casters because it would be less expensive than the downtime of the servers by quite a bit, even if you charged £100 for the casters. When you're the only tech-savvy person on site during a holiday, even invisible windows become your problem. This story comes to us from Haunting Wasabi 5521. The security camera system won't log me in automatically anymore. Yesterday something happened at work that reminded me of stories on this subreddit. So I work in shifts as a technician in a data center. Outside of office hours, there is only me and some security guards on site. While IT-related problems are usually not for us techs to deal with, as we have an IT department for this stuff, we technicians are often the first line of fire when an IT problem surfaces because we are always on site. Yesterday was a national holiday, so no one on site except me and the security guards. One of the guards calls me and says his security camera system won't log him in properly anymore and shuts down immediately when login is done. I explained that I have no clue about the IT side of things, but I can at least take a look to see what's up. It turned out that somehow he had minimized the camera system on his desktop to such an extent that once it had started up, it disappeared. All it took to fix his issue was to maximize the program from the taskbar. Hope you enjoyed, thought this would be a nice story about user experience versus reality. I don't know why this one reminded me of this, but does anybody else remember playing pranks on their coworkers where you would take a screenshot of their desktop, then take all of their icons and put them into one folder way off in a corner or something, and then put that screenshot as the background so it looked like everything was still there, and hide the taskbar down at the bottom? I miss those days of making people wonder what the heck was going on when all of their folders weren't clickable anymore, and the start button itself, well, it doesn't do anything. Something must be frozen, right? Sometimes the biggest office mysteries can be solved in under 5 minutes, if you know where to look. This story comes to us from Speddy23, 5 minutes of helping a colleague equals cookies and a thank you note. A colleague of mine that works in finance downloaded a comma-separated values file from a bank and opened it in Excel as she always does. Said file was basically all the transactions for a particular month. What happened is, it only showed about a third of the data that was expected in the Excel file. It would get to a particular cell, and that would be the end of the data in Excel, although she could see on the web page that there was lots more transactions. All other months were fine, just this one file for that one particular month. So she calls our internal help desk. They take a look and say, it must be something wrong with the bank or the file, and suggested they contact the bank. She contacts her bank by phone, and they say they don't know what to do, but to contact the business banking team via email. She contacts the business banking team via email. They say they can't assist with this, but to contact the bank's internal IT help desk. She contacts the bank's internal IT help desk, who say they only assist bank employees and not the public, and suggested she calls our own internal help desk. Eventually, she messages me on Teams and says, although she knows this isn't what I look at, she has spent 2 hours contacting various teams and no one will assist. I head over to her desk to take a look and notice where the data discrepancy between the website and the CSV file is. Right where the data cuts off, I notice a single quotation mark, just one double quote character in one of the fields. With a CSV file, if you want to have something literal in there, like a comma, you need to put a quotation mark at the beginning and end of something, such as quotation, comma, quotation. Opening the file in Notepad, I could see that all the data after the quotation mark was not showing in Excel, and in the entire CSV file, there was only the single quotation mark. All the data was in the CSV file. So remove the quotation mark and save the file. I then opened it in Excel and all the data was showing as expected. So it seems with Excel, if you have a CSV with a single quotation mark and no second quotation mark to delimit it, it will ignore all data after the quotation mark. I explained this to my colleague, who is just ecstatic that this is working now and understands what is going on. The next morning when I come into the office, on my desk is a big basket of freshly baked cookies and a handwritten note. The note explains how, without me working out what was wrong, she would have had to spend several hours copying and pasting, field by field, for hundreds of lines from the website to Excel. Jumping down to the comments on this one, there's one from a user called Not Yet Ready to Retire. It says, I found out early on in my career that an evening baking chocolate chip cookies paid huge dividends in having future requests be acted upon favorably. Anytime I needed special favors or needed forgiveness for some infraction, 144 freshly baked chocolate chip cookies saved the day. Wait a minute, where are we getting 144 from? These are tech support people. Don't you think you should have cooked up 128? Or maybe even 256? Or 512? Or 1024? Come on, you know you gotta stick to those numbers. The ones that the tech support people are really used to. Besides, I would love having 1024 cookies on my desk. Also, I would be fat. Just saying. When someone says the internet is broken, you brace for anything, but you still won't see this one coming. This story comes to us from Unicycle Loser, blank monitor equals IT blocked the switch. Over the past few months, we've been slowly building up one of our field offices as they've been hiring people, which means sending out the occasional new workstation, monitors, etc. for new users to log into. They get the PC, plug it into the switch on site, and go. Pretty standard and no issues up until this one. One day, a ticket comes into the help desk from the office admin out there that says, can we please unblock port X on the switch so the new guy can access the internet? Immediately, I raise an eyebrow because we don't block the internet on any of our switch ports at any other sites, and it wouldn't make any sense for just this one port not to work when we've been sending them new machines for weeks now. So I grab the ticket and do a bit of investigative work by opening up our remote access software where I can see the PC clearly showing as online, as well as logging into the firewall and seeing the PC connected to the switch port in question. I responded back to the ticket saying things looked okay from my end, but figured I might be looking at the wrong PC, and asked her to confirm the name of the machine. We stick a label with the PC name on every PC we send out. Crickets. 5 minutes later, the foreman for the site calls my coworker annoyed saying, "You guys need to fix this. This guy is just sitting here unable to do any work." And moments after that, the user himself sends in a ticket with the same description as above. Please unblock port X on the switch. So now I'm getting annoyed, and after finally tracking down their phone number that everyone neglected to give us, I give the guy a call. I confirmed the PC name with him, remoted into the machine, and then saw the Windows login screen. I thought, oh, he must just not be entering his password correctly. I guess I could see why they thought that was the internet. So I asked him to try entering his password again to see what would happen. He says he doesn't see anything, just a blank monitor that has the word English on it. And then it clicked. We have been sending them newer Dell monitors that, when you first plug them in, you just have to use one of the physical buttons on the monitor to, select your language, as instructed on the screen itself. He reads the message, presses the button it tells him to, and whoa, everything works. Go figure. Now, like a lot of you, I'm sure that when someone describes an issue like, the internet doesn't work, you run down the mental checklist of other stuff that might actually be going on that they lack the tech literacy to describe. But this was a whole other level that I wasn't prepared for. How you get from a blank monitor to the firewall port is blocked is such a baffling big stretch that I'm still not quite sure how they arrived there. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called The Real Tinfoil 666. It says, I suspect that at some point in the past, this particular user was unable to access the internet on his work computer, and the problem was, in fact, a blocked switch port. Ergo, anytime that user cannot simply go to the internet, it must be a blocked port. I love users that just don't understand how things work, even when it's something painfully obvious. Like when you have a hurricane go through an area and there's no power and definitely no internet, somebody calls in and says, well, can you send out a technician to get me online tomorrow? No, we can't. Go away, you're too dumb. Tech support in the early 2000s was full of surprises, especially when users had no idea what they were looking at. This story comes to us from Remarkable Degree 252. The foot pedal? I used to be a tech support representative long ago, right around the time when Y2K was a major concern for a lot of people. You would have thought it was the end of the world, honestly. Anyway, I was supporting the customers of a particular computer company when I got this call. Thank you for calling Computer Company Tech Support. My name is... And so the intro goes. I get the customer's name and his computer's information and ask how I can be of service. This was his response. Hello, I've got the television, the typewriter and the box it all plugs into, but what's this here foot pedal for? I was stumped. Foot pedal? Sir, could you please hold a moment? I'd like to look this up if I could. Customer was a really nice guy, honestly. Well, sure, I don't mind. I put him on hold, began thinking, what was going on there? Television, typewriter, box, foot pedal? Oh, Lord, forgive me. It was at that moment when I threw my hand over my mouth and started giggling uncontrollably. I realized what he was talking about. After taking a moment to calm down, I composed myself, took a deep breath, and brought the customer back from hold. Sir, that isn't a foot pedal, that is your mouse. It moves the arrow around on the screen so you can click the little buttons on top of it to open programs. Then, I referred him to a community college course in his area so he could take a basic computer literacy course. Sometimes, all people need is a nudge in the right direction. I do remember in the early 2000s, there were so many people who were getting their first computers because they had just become cost effective to have in your home, and there were a lot of people who just had no idea how they worked. The user that OP was dealing with is the kind of one that would call back once everything was up and running and ask, "How do I use the cup holder? I saw it out the other day, but I don't know how to get it back out. Where am I supposed to put my coffee?" Running out of storage space is pretty common, but not usually because of a full HD fantasy trilogy. This story comes to us from ScrumTool. Kudos for choosing the extended cuts, I guess. I've told this story a few times, but never wrote it down anywhere. Was working on the help desk for a company that had a lot of different divisions that all reported to the same corporate. One day, I get a call from one of the corporate users stating his laptop appears to be out of storage. I'd been working on my own flash drive full of useful IT tools and remembered WinDirStat, a data visualization tool for your hard drive. I'm thinking, okay, let's fire up this tool and see what's up. Immediately, I see 3 giant blocks, each one a single file. I check the top of the app and see they are all in a single folder. Head down and click on one of them to get the file name, and, well, that would explain it. "Sir, do you still need the Lord of the Rings extended cut Blu-ray trilogy on here? We can delete that and make some room." For reference, the trilogy is somewhere north of 100 gigabytes for 3 video files. I got a real quiet nope out of him, deleted the files, and he was on his way. Turns out he does a lot of traveling. No idea why he loaded these onto his work laptop and not his own device, but I'd probably want some entertainment too. Alright, so back when I worked for Rick, yes, that Rick, I worked a lot with laptops and computers that customers had from our store, and we would do tech support on them for the time that they were still paying for them. I had a bunch of computers that came back where people said they ran out of storage and they didn't know why, and I'd go digging with their consent, of course. I found a lot of things that I never ever want to see again. Videos, pictures, collections of movies that you can't mention on YouTube, and one really questionable one that actually made the police come out because of what we found. That's a story for another day, maybe for the Karma Crew members, because it would very quickly get demonetized on YouTube itself. And just a reminder, if you want access to the exclusive content, you can click the join button down below any video or the link at the top of the description down below to join the Karma Crew. Alright, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform, or if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.